Well, guys, after many weeks of hearing about the death on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the death has finally happened, and in the end, was as satisfying as it could be? Let's find out. Hey guys, can I remember the season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Season 3, Episode 21, Absolution, and Season 3, Episode 22, Ascension. Of course, I will be reviewing both episodes in this review. Obviously, I was hyped out of my mind for this episode. I mean, weeks now, we have been hearing about this death and how it's going to propel the show and how nothing's ever going to be the same, and I had an idea of what was going to happen, and I definitely will say that what I thought was going to happen pretty much did happen, but I still think it was as satisfying as it could be, and the episode didn't just focus on the death. It really was a great action-packed episode. There was some great humor in this episode. There were just great moments for all the team in general. Everyone really did have something to do in these, last 2 hours of the season, and especially the ending really opens up a new aspect for the show that I'm really hoping they explore next year, which I definitely will get into. But let's get into this episode because there is tons of stuff to talk about, and I love the way this episode starts because the way it plays with your mind is crazy. I mean, we're on this alien planet where Hive was trapped, and Daisy and Coulson are trapped in a cell as Daisy tries to repair the wires. Now, I was thinking this can be one of those things where it's like, let's go back to like 10 hours before or something like that. But Coulson says that they're the last ones, wonders how long they can survive, and I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? And Daisy says that she knew somebody would go, but she didn't know that everyone would go, and I'm like, are they actually going to kill off the entire cast? Like, I know they said that nothing would be the same, so I was kind of freaking out this actually is what happened, and she touches the cross necklace hanging her neck, the same one that Yo-Yo or Elena gave to Mac. She says that once she hacks the controls, she can pilot them back to Earth. Coulson tells her that this is Earth, and that this is Earth, and again, I'm freaking out because I have no idea what's going on. Luckily, very quickly we realize this is all just a very bad dream that Daisy's having, and it's part of her withdrawal that she's going through in this episode, which I love the way they play in this episode, because they don't just play Daisy's, her basically dealing what happened with Hive as just her dealing what happened with Hive. They play it as a drug. The fact that she was under Hive's serum, the fact that she acted the way she did, and the way that she doesn't feel she can come back from it, I thought was very well done, and this is by far, I think, Chloe Ben's strongest episode yet. I think she was incredible in this episode. She gave an amazing performance. I mean, she's always been great. She's always been one of my highlights in the show. In my opinion, I think she's the best actress on this show. I think she was fantastic here. She did an incredible job, and she wakes up in a bed at the base under medical surveillance in a cell, and it really just shows really how Daisy is feeling. She really feels like she's plotted everyone's doom, and in many ways she's not wrong. I definitely will say that. But we then see Melinda, or I'm gonna finally call her May, because I've called her Melinda all of these episodes, and I know you guys have been mad at me for that, so I'm finally gonna call her May. She's piloting Mac, Lincoln, and Yo-Yo out on a mission. Lincoln and Yo-Yo are wearing vests, and Lincoln hands over the kill switch to Mac. The Quinjet is experiencing a lot of turbulence, and Mac asks how they're doing, and May says that it wasn't designed for this. Now, you know that Mac is not going to die, because the way they do this episode, whoever has, that cross necklace, is not gonna die. It's kind of like a passing thing. Like, it's like a hot potato. Like, you don't want to be the last one that gets a cross necklace, which I thought was a really cool idea. It could have come across as really hokey and really contrived, but it really works in this episode. We'll get into that, though. And the way they did that, I thought was very well done. We then see that Jemma visits Daisy. Jemma is the only one who checks on her because she's the only one that Daisy didn't hurt while under Hive's sway. Everyone else is kind of, not really scared, but they just don't really know how to feel because of what Daisy went through. Now, I was thinking that she was tricking them. You can tell very quickly that Daisy is definitely not tricking them. Daisy can't tell them much, but Jemma says that they're following up on a lead at an island missile silo, so that's gone silent, and basically, you can tell that Jemma really does want to help Daisy, and I like seeing that. And really, Daisy gets a really nice scene this episode with everyone, and Hive's team then have the warhead in place. Gaira promises that they'll spot S.H.I.E.L.D. on radar even if they're cloaked, because they know that S.H.I.E.L.D. could try to cloak themselves, so this isn't going to work, but they are one step ahead. And I think is one of the best parts of this episode, is that throughout this entire episode, Hive and his team are one step ahead of S.H.I.E.L.D. They know what S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to do. They know what S.H.I.E.L.D. is capable of. They feel they have this in the bag, that their plan's going to work, everything's going to work out fine. I think that was something I really like seeing here. We've never really seen this confident of a villain on the show before, which I love seeing. So the Quinjet rises up out of the the water, whereas escaped Gaera's radar, and Talbot is then asking a Department of Defense official for mystical kill codes, but he's not really getting much of anywhere. And I did kind of like that Talbot had some humor in this episode. Luckily, Fitz is able to figure out where the codes are kept. Coulson is already on his way to obtain them, and Mack's team is then inside the base. They split up, they try to prepare the uplink, and Fitz uses motion capture technology and a green screen to impersonate a Department of Defense official, which is a very funny scene. I love the way that was done, and I like the way he was able to use a green screen. I mean, how cool was that? It really shows us how tech-savvy and nerdy that Fitz can really be. I love that. Talbot and he talk to the Undersecretary of Defense. They convince him to give the codes to Coulson, who pulls up outside, and this is one of the reasons I love the episode, because this episode was incredibly fun as well. That's something I really love, is that while this episode was sad when we get to the death, it was incredibly fun throughout both episodes. I mean, there were some really great moments here, some really, I think, classic Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. moments. Some of the best moments I think we've had in the show was in this episode. So, May and Lincoln hack into the uplink and security cameras, and Coulson reads the kill code off to Fitz, and he types into the uplink as quickly as possible, racing against the launch clock, and Jemma says that and obviously, he's trying to be as, he's as frantic as ever, because he doesn't really know if they're going to be able to do this, he's hoping that they're going to be able to beat Hive, but he doesn't really know, and Jemma says that the only intel Daisy has provided that didn't pan out was the word absolution, and all she can say is that Hive thinks that he's the savior, which, honestly, is not wrong. I mean, Hive pretty much does think he's a savior. In fact, talking about before, Hive doesn't think he's doing anything wrong, he feels that he's saving people, and what I love about this episode is what last week's episode didn't do. This episode shows that many people do think that Hive's not a bad guy, and that many people do know, that Hive himself, he doesn't feel he's doing anything wrong, and I love seeing that. And obviously, the Warhead, now we know why he is this villain and why they portray him this way, but last week it really seemed like they were trying to categorize him as a villain when he wasn't really exactly doing anything that villainous, because really what Hive wants to do, in retrospect, is not that villainous. He wants to give people the opportunity to be an Inhuman, but then we see in this episode that's more about him creating an army against S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's really what he wants to do. He wants to make his own, Hydra, because now that Hydra's gone, he wants to make his own. So S.H.I.E.L.D. manages to shut down the launch. Hive is furious, orders Radcliffe to fix it. Radcliffe tries to explain that he's not an engineer, and Hive wonders why he should bother keeping Radcliffe around, because Radcliffe has done nothing for him. I mean, every time Radcliffe says, oh, I'm not ready for this, or this isn't working, and what I really thought is that Radcliffe really does not want to do something dark. I think he didn't know that this was going to be something dark. Radcliffe agrees to see what he can do because, he does want to help Hive and everything, but again, you can tell that Radcliffe doesn't want to go really dark. So Lincoln spots a camera, realizes that Hive's people know where they are, and obviously that's a problem. He and May then split up as May makes for the silo, and Mack and Yo-Yo are then working on saving the hostages. Mack tries to return the cross to Yo-Yo, but she refuses it because it's not hers to take. Obviously, we know from Daisy's vision that someone is going to die, and again, like I said, whoever gets this next is the next one that's going to die. And you know that Yo-Yo definitely is not going to die, because it's Yo-Yo, just knowing that Yo-Yo doesn't want the cross, for a fact she's not going to die. Because it's not that it wouldn't make sense if Yo-Yo didn't die, because obviously Yo-Yo and Joey are not main characters, but that's the reason why it wouldn't be as effective, because the fact that we don't know them as well. They're great characters, I'm not saying, I think they've done a very good job of both these characters and really fleshed them out to their full potential, but they're just not, as impactful as if a lead character died, which is what happened in this episode. So Coulson asks Jemma if Daisy remembered what absolution means, but she doesn't think that Daisy knows, because Daisy really is trying to process what she's gone through. You have to understand that Daisy in this episode doesn't really remember what happened to her under the effect of the serum that she was under, which is a really cool effect that I really did like seeing, that she doesn't really remember a lot of it. Radcliffe investigates a silo, realizes that he's out of his depth, and he tries to enlist the aid of two primitives. He mentions tools, and they pick up some that are in the silo, and the primitives clearly is, the main threat for Hive, and as bad as I thought they were pretty threatening. I definitely will say that. Hive then comes for Lincoln. Coulson tells Daisy that they got the kill code in time. He asks about absolution, but she still doesn't know anything, and at this point, I'm like, is she hiding it? Does she really not know, or does she just want to not say anything? And Coulson assures her that her status as a prisoner prisoner is only temporary, that she's not going to be this way, but she feels like she deserves to be a prisoner. And this was an incredible scene, really gets into Daisy as a whole, because like I said, at this point, I did not know, I still kind of thought that she was faking it. I really did. I mean, yes, she had that nightmare, but I still kind of felt that she was kind of still, some of her beliefs weren't wrong, and I love that she basically admits that she does want to be a prisoner and that she does deserve all this pain. And Coulson tells her that she was brainwashed, but Daisy points out that Ward was too. And of course, Ward stayed that way. You know, Ward stayed evil. He stayed against S.H.I.E.L.D. Even when Coulson tried to get him involved, we know he was always against S.H.I.E.L.D. and he always tried to plot against them, and that's what Daisy's worried about. That Daisy's worried that she's gonna stay this way, that she is going to stay against S.H.I.E.L.D. She can't be in S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore, and that's not something that changes at the end of this episode. We'll get into that, but I think that's very interesting. I really love seeing that, and I really think that Chloe Bennet, like I said, really sold it here. So Hive taunts Lincoln with his relationship with Daisy, offers to make Lincoln wall the same way he did with Daisy, and Lincoln comes out from hiding, makes a run for it, because we know that when Daisy was under the serum, this is what Daisy wanted, and Coulson compares the effects of Hive's sway to a drug and says that Daisy is going through withdrawal. And, you know, that kind of is what's going on, that Hive's serum is a drug, because a drug, what does it do? It makes you not act like yourself, and just like the serum did not make Daisy act like herself. And yeah, it seems hokey, but it really worked here, and I really think they used that, drug kind of metaphor really well here. He warns her against searching for revenge, that she should not go out for revenge, and you can tell that that's not what Daisy wants. In fact, she wants to suffer. She has to be put into the memory machine from, Tahiti, figuring that Coulson was probably already thinking of using it. He says he's brought it out of storage, but it isn't for her, and I mean, you can just tell that Daisy at this point doesn't really care what happens to her. She feels she deserves to suffer. She feels that she deserves all this pain, which we know she doesn't, but she just feels that because of what she did, it's just too much. No one should forgive her for it because of what she did, which is very sad to see. So Lincoln then finds Yo-Yo and Mack. Mack says he needs more time, but Hive is right behind Lincoln. They run down the hall, but Yo-Yo uses her speed to finish his Mack's work. They set up a device that overloads Hive with memories, crippling him with pain. Really great scene. I love the way that was done. It really goes into, who Hive really is. Yo-Yo goes for the hostage. Lincoln says he can't hold it much longer. They've hoped that they've successfully fried his brain and leave him, and it seems at this point that they've defeated Hive, which they haven't, but they think that they are winning and that they have defeated him. Guyer and James, that we know obviously they haven't, because one, we have to get to space, two, we know that it's only not even the first hour's done. So Guyer and James find Hive. He's having memory spasms, repeating words from his past memories, and one of the best things about Hive is that we know that he hasn't just been in Ward's body. He has taken many life forms, many different kinds of many different kinds of people, many different kinds of characters, and now he really is kind of going crazy. And I was wondering if Hive was actually going to go mad in this episode and that he wasn't going to stay in Ward's body. I was wondering really what was going to happen here. This was really unpredictable, and I really like that. Radcliffe and the primitives are still working on the silo. May finds them, but a third primitive jumps her. She fights the three of them, dropping her gun, and Yo-Yo knocks out the primitive guarding the hostage, leads the hostages out of the room. Again, I think as bad as the effects were for the primitives, they still were quite threatening. I definitely will say that. I got definitely some creepy vibes from them. I definitely felt uneasy watching them, and that's exactly how I should have felt, and I think they did that really well. So Guyer and James continue trying to reach Hive, but he's rambling through Ward's memories. He finally comes through, tells him to disconnect the warhead for absolution, and James is in the dark, but Guyer seems to understand. They run off. Hive continues rambling to himself, remembering something about always giving them a chance to find their way out and crossing him off. We have no idea what he's talking about at this point, but May continues fighting the primitives. Radcliffe picks up May's gun, shoots the primitives. He asks if she's with S.H.I.E.L.D., and when she says she is, he begs her to take him with her, and I thought this was incredible, the way that he wants to go with S.H.I.E.L.D. Why? Because Radcliffe knows straight out that he is not a bad guy. He does not want to go he does not want to work for Hive. He does not want to have to do what he has to do, and he really doesn't want to have to turn against them. But the silo door opens, the warhead's taken out via Quinijets, and Radcliffe doesn't really get a say. Hive's plan's already orchestrated. He doesn't really get to do anything here, and Mack then leads the hostage evacuation. The team is on their way out when Hive catches up. Yo-Yo uses her speed to plant a device at Hive's feet. The device attracts a ATCU gel chamber that seals Hive inside, and Hive is brought back to base. Talbot congratulates Coulson on a successful mission, but Coulson says it isn't a success yet because, now they've captured Hive. So now they're thinking, all right, we've captured Hive, and the warhead he knows is still out there, and that's really the main threat, is the fact they need to disarm that warhead in any way. And Talbot wants to figure out how to reverse the primitives. May suggests getting Radcliffe Radcliffe on it. Radcliffe tries to explain that he was forced to do what he did, but he says the process is irreversible, and Talbot promises that if Radcliffe doesn't find a way to reverse the process, Radcliffe will be turned to a primitive himself, and Fitz and Jemma will work with him and will make sure that he doesn't turn into that primitive. Because we know that Fitz was initially the reason Radcliffe's here in the first place, because he wanted to get Radcliffe, and he thought that getting Radcliffe on their side would be a good thing, and that's exactly what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to sway Radcliffe to their side and not get him to listen to what they're saying, because they're trying to tell him that, he's stronger if he works with them. So Coulson wants to find Hive's base of operations. Coulson tells Lincoln that he thinks that he'll make a great agent, and Lincoln says he doesn't think he wants that. He doesn't want to be an agent anymore, which I'm not surprised about, because we know that Lincoln was kind of thrown into this by Daisy. Daisy kind of forced him into it, and if Daisy doesn't really want to be a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., he doesn't really want to either. He kind of just wants what Daisy wants, and Coulson tells Lincoln he thinks it's a mistake. As about Daisy, now let me just say, by far the best writing for Lincoln was in this episode, which really plays, really, I think, does a really, really works with what happens at the end of this episode, which we'll get into. Sorry, guys, I'm going to turn on a light because it's really dark in here. Sorry, I just think I don't like the lighting, but, basically, we see that he really does not want to go back to S.H.I.E.L.D. Basically, he says he doesn't think he has anything to offer Daisy, and he's not really wrong. I mean, when you really think about it, what does Lincoln offer to the show? Now, I don't necessarily like that they made this seem like that was the point, that Lincoln being there was always unnecessary, because I do think they had something planned for Lincoln. But in many ways, Lincoln was just a guy trying to find his way, and that's, I think, why many times a lot of the scenes with Daisy, they just didn't really work in the way they should, because in reality, while Lincoln and Daisy are good, there's really nothing that great about them. They don't really have that chemistry. He doesn't really do anything for her. She's always going to be more powerful than him, and she really doesn't need him, and I really think they showed that very well here. So Mac asks if anyone's going to talk to Daisy, but Coulson says she sticks to the security protocols, because while Daisy's a problem, they can always talk to her afterward, and Mac doesn't care, goes to visit Daisy, and it really just shows his loyalty to Daisy, which I love seeing. But he leaves Yo-Yo's cross necklace behind the lab, so you know that Mac is definitely not going to die, because you know someone else is going to get that cross necklace, and Mac then tells Daisy about Hive's capture, but Daisy tells him to leave the model, saying they're not partners anymore, and we kind of get a goodwill hunting sort of scene here, because Mac says he forgives her for what happened. He tries to reach out to her. She fights it, but finally breaks down his arms, and it's a really touching scene, because Daisy for a while was really resisting that emotion and resisting the, crying and everything, because she really felt that she didn't deserve. She genuinely feels that she should be killed, or she should be tortured, and that she should be shunned for this. And I like he's trying to tell her that, no, we still care about you. I think it was great that we saw that, and Fitz is then working on finding a cure for Radcliffe's formula, but he's not feeling hopeful. He asks what Jemma's working on, discovers she's trying to hide that she's trying to book a romantic getaway for the two of them, and I'm like, they're gonna die, because whenever that happens, you know they're gonna die, but Fitz wonders if this is the time, but Gemma's looking forward to the future with a break free from some tragedy, and I was really hoping these two wouldn't die, because we know that what Jemma went through for the first half of the season, things are good between them now, keep it that way, and Fitz needs to go inspect the gel chamber that Hive is in before it's brought to the base. He puts on a S.H.I.E.L.D. jacket, picks up Yo-Yo's cross on the way, and it honestly is kind of a relief, because again, he's not gonna be the last one to get that cross, because we're still early in, this is still only the first episode, and we know there are going to be other people that get that cross. So, excuse me. In many ways, when someone gets across in this episode, it's a relief, because we know for a fact that that person is spared. They're not going to die, and I love the way that that was handled. Daisy and Mac then discuss Hive, with Daisy comparing Hive to the devil, and she doesn't think it's safe to have him just in stasis, and says that he needs to be destroyed, that they can't just, capture him, because he's going to find another way to come after them, and Daisy's completely right, and Mac counts her, the devil is good at filling a person with so much anger and so many dark thoughts that consumes them, and Daisy says this isn't about revenge. Mac says that she's safe, that Coulson is sealing up the base, and I love these scenes between Mac and Daisy, because we know, of course, what happened with Mac and Daisy when Daisy was, of course, under Hive's serum, what she did to Mac. Mac doesn't care, though, because he knew that that wasn't Daisy. He knew that that was her under the serum, and they showed that very well here. Fitz then investigates the gel chamber, notices that the hangar door is still open. Gaera and James, hovering somewhere above, hit a button. Fitz notices a package in the hangar from Absolution, and Montana, just as it explodes, releasing Radcliffe's formula into the air, transforming one of the hangar deck workers into a primitive. Crazy scene. The alarm goes off, the primitive attacks. He pulls another worker into the cloud. Fitz can't get out of the hangar because of the lockdown. The primitives take more into the cloud. Two agents try to hold them off as Fitz tries to walk them through how to get the door open in a hurry. Jemma decides to try something and the door opens. Fitz gets through, but the agents aren't as lucky. He managed to save one just before the door closed again. It's really a thrilling scene because you know how dangerous these primitives are, and also how not radioactive, but also how, dangerous, not just in terms of them violently, but also, physically. Like, if you get close to one of them, you could be exposed, because we know that Hive's plan is to get everyone to be a primitive, and the primitives find Hell's cell. They begin tearing it apart. An incredible scene where they literally tear apart Hive's prison, and Hive is free, and you knew that was going to happen. You knew that Hive was not going to stay in prison, but now not only is Hive free, we then get probably one of the most surprising scenes in this episode, but it also isn't really a surprise, because Mac and Daisy watching a monitor. We see Daisy realizes that Hive is after the Zephyr one to use the delivery system for his primitive formula, and Daisy gets into a mobile model that rides up into the Zephyr, and Hive tries to remember what he needs to do. Daisy steps out of the model, attracts his attention, but Hive is having trouble remembering her because, of course, what happened, and he says she's in pain, and she asks him to take her back, which is a crazy scene. Daisy begs Hive to take her back. He reaches out, puts his hand on her face, but then pulls back. He says he can't. That lash made her impervious to his, and, basically, I love the scene with Daisy, that she's literally begging Hive here. She's saying, despite the fact that she really does not like Hive, she feels that she belongs with Hive, and again, it's like a drug, that she's not having it. We know the symptoms of withdrawal, the fact of what withdrawal does to you. I mean, it really affects you, and Daisy needs it to be normal, and she doesn't feel like, she doesn't feel good because of the fact that she doesn't have, Hive or her drug. He reaches out, puts his hand on her face, but then pulls back. He says he can't. That lash made her impervious to his sway, and there is no way that she can be swayed again. And furious, Daisy lets loose with her powers because she really does want to be on his side, because that's just where she feels most comfortable. And also, I think it's where Daisy feels she belongs. I do think that she feels she does not belong with S.H.I.E.L.D. because she's too dangerous, she did too many things against them, and she doesn't feel she should be forgiven for that. Mack and Coulson fill each other in on the situation when the whole base shakes from Daisy's powers, and Quake finally comes out in this episode. Now, we've been teased Quake throughout this entire season. We've had some stuff with Daisy overall, but we haven't really seen her as Quake. We've seen her more as Daisy Johnson, and finally this episode we get to see her as Quake. She continues attacking Dive. Fitz realizes that something is wrong with Daisy's containment unit. Radcliffe tells him the primitives retain some memories and skills of their past lives. 28 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents have been transformed, and they realize that the primitives are in the vents and split up to defend the base. May and Fitz then find Daisy's unit empty. Hive does his best to defend himself from Daisy. They fight using hand-to-hand combat, mix their powers, which I love that it was hand-to-hand combat, because that is by far the best stuff that Marvel does in general. I mean, even in the Marvel movies, that's the best stuff. Daisy pins Hive to a wall, stabs him repeatedly, but Hive doesn't even seem to feel anything, and she used her powers to crush him against the wall. His bones break, but he snaps him back into place, and it's really a terrifying scene knowing she can't beat him. An aircraft drops in the hangar, distracting Daisy. He knocks her out, and that is how the first part of this ends. So that's the end of Absolution. Now we get into the second half of the episode, Ascension, which... it's not just, I think, darker in terms of tone. It's still just as fun, but it's much darker. There's a lot less hope, and there's a lot more knowing that someone's going to die. I mean, I think episode 2, this second half, the first half was great. It was a really great setup. I thought there was some really great stuff here, but the second half really showed what the show can do, and, as a whole, I think this is the best episode of the season, without a doubt, but this second episode really showed the potential, what the show can really do when you really flesh out a plot as much as you do with this. So Gaera and James arrive. Hive keeps Daisy with them to guarantee S.H.I.E.L.D. won't shoot them down. Radcliffe follows Lincoln and Coulson. Mack and Yo-Yo run into a primitive. It opens fire at Mack, but Yo-Yo uses her speed to stop in front of the bullet. Lincoln, Radcliffe, and Coulson find primitive destroying their servers, and Hive says that he believes he can fly the Zephyr using the memories of Will Daniels and Grant Ward, and because we know he has both of them in him. Will and Ward are both there. They begin takeoff, and Mack and Coulson's group meet up. They run to the workshop and lock the door. and Jemma ends up being trapped in a separate room, and I was worried that that cross was going to fall into her hands. I was just worried that was going to happen there, because of course Fitz has. I was worried that was going to happen. So Hive flies the Zephyr out of the hangar. They begin ascending straight up to the height that they don't need to disperse the formula across Earth. James wonders how they're supported to get back to Earth without being blown up first, and Hive says that they'll drop down the containment unit. May and Fitz are hidden on board, and Gaera sets the timer, and Mack then lays Yo-Yo on the table, and I'm like, Yo-Yo's not going to be the one that dies. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't work. They've teased his death for too long. It's not going to be someone like Yo-Yo. That'd just be dumb. Now, while Yo-Yo, like I think she's a really great character. I think they really developed her very well. She just isn't as, known as someone like Coulson or Daisy or someone like that. Like, when I say into S.H.I.E.L.D., would you even know who Yo-Yo is if I didn't tell you? No, you would not, obviously. So Ling can save everyone materials from the lab, but they're cut off. Coulson said they need to stop the bleeding when something in the workshop. Radcliffe suggests a blowtorch, and Yo-Yo insists that Mack be the one to do it, which is terrifying to think about. We don't actually see him do it, but it really is crazy. Several primitives then converge on Jemma's location, but they are drawn away by screaming. Realizing him at the heat, Jemma cranks the furnace, and Yo-Yo has in fact stabilized. Luckily, Mack was able to help with the blowtorch, which I'm glad we didn't see, because that would have been terrifying, but Radcliffe then takes a moment to marvel at Coulson's cybernetic hand. They hear noise on the other side of the door, which I love that he was looking at his hand. I thought that was pretty funny. Again, it really shows that this episode was fun when it needed to be. So Maple's down a print on the Zephyr. Fitz tries to open the containment unit, but Daisy tells him not to because she's a liability, and the best thing to do is to keep her there. And Lincoln's worried that Yo-Yo's wound is infected and says that they need antibiotics. They all note the heat. Radcliffe realizes that Jemma is clouding their vision, which she realizes is infrared, and Radcliffe opens the door, walks outside, assuming that they'll be invisible to the primitives, and one looks right at him but doesn't seem to notice. Coulson suggests that they follow him, and Daisy insists that she has nothing left. She did terrible things, deserves to be in the box, and May says that if it were true, that Andrew wouldn't have saved her, because it was Andrew that saved her, not Lash, it was Andrew, and and as much as I thought that was very dumb what happened with Lash, I think it works really well here, because it's really made this a lot more interesting. May's expressing her feelings when Gaera knocks her out, and I'm like, shit, May's gonna die, but I'm like, oh, she doesn't have the cross, so she's not gonna die. So she puts Fitz at gunpoint. Fitz tells Gaera that he planted a weapon on the plane to stall Gaera. Gaera says he swept the plane and didn't see anything. Gaera insists Fitz show him. Fitz agrees, but then shoots him with an invisible gun, and Gaera's dead. Cool. I never really cared about his character much. He was terrifying and really menacing, but I'm glad that he died, obviously. So Fitz opens Daisy's unit, disables the model. Fitz and Daisy take May into the Zephyr lab, and Fitz notes the cold, saying that they're climbing too high. He gives Daisy his coat. Coulson's group then finds Jemma. Jemma tells them that May and Fitz are on the Zephyr, and Yo-Yo needs a hospital. Coulson uses his arm to summon a remote Quinajet. He says he'll get everyone out, retake the base, but then he's taking the Quinajet to stop the Zephyr, because obviously that's the main mission, is to stop the Zephyr, and Radcliffe expresses how impressed he is. And I like how, throughout this episode, very slowly, Radcliffe is getting swayed to S.H.I.E.L.D., and that he really, they're swaying him over. They're showing that he can trust them, that they're just as good as Hive, and that they really are, just as unstoppable, and that you don't mess with S.H.I.E.L.D. You really do see that here. So anyone that said that S.H.I.E.L.D. was weak, watch this episode, they're definitely not. So Hive sets the last of the coordinates in the Zephyr. A primitive brings Gaera's corpse to Hive, and you can just see the look at Hive. He tells James to find the stowaways. Now, obviously, Hive is not really that phased by Gaera's death, because of the fact of who Hive is, and also what he's been through. He's not that phased, but you can really tell he's a bit defeated, which I did like seeing here. And as this episode goes on, Hive feels more and more defeated. So the Quinajet docks the Zephyr. Daisy pulls a cross out of the jacket pocket. He looks at her jacket, remembers her vision, and remembers that someone is definitely going to die. And this definitely scares her, because she doesn't want to think that someone's going to die, but it also makes us remember that someone's going to die as well. And again, every time they're doing that, it's really crazy. And then we get one of the coolest scenes I think we have ever gotten in this show between Coulson and Hive, because Hive finds Coulson at the docking station. Coulson and Hive go back and forth, and Hive senses that Coulson is hiding something. Just the way that he's acting very shady. He shows his true form, threatens to take Coulson's body, which I gotta say, he looked really scary, honestly. It looked like something out of a horror movie, really. And Coulson reveals that his team is on board the Zephyr, and Hive lunges at Coulson. It turns out it's a hologram, and I love Coulson's line, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. I always wanted to say that. I think that was awesome. I thought that was hilarious, and it's just totally something that Coulson would do. The way that he single-handedly tricked Hive, and it again makes us remember how fun Coulson can really be, because let's face it, Coulson can be a bit of a hard ass sometimes, but here he was a lot of fun, and I really love seeing that. I think they did that really well. James and grabs Lincoln, pulls him aside, the two of them begin fighting, but Lincoln zaps him, May shows him to knock him out, and James left a bomb on Lincoln though, and it explodes, knocking him out, but obviously he's not dead. Jemma then tends to Lincoln's wound. She tells him that he should be fine, but he needs to stay as still as possible. And Daisy apologizes to Lincoln for everything that happened, but Lincoln already knows that it wasn't him, and that it wasn't her. He knows straight out that it wasn't her. Lincoln says he knows why Daisy went back to Hive. Now, let me just say again, as much as I don't like Lincoln and Daisy, all of their scenes work incredibly well in this episode, just because of everything they've been through. No one should have to go through what they did, and you really care about both of them. I actually wanted them to get out of this. And Lincoln says he knows why Daisy went back to Hive, but he says he understands that kind of addiction, and he knows that this is really something that Daisy can't overcome. The fact that Hive swayed her, and it's really changed her, and Daisy realizes Coulson's plans. He's explaining it to the team. He wants to steal the warhead, move it to the Quinnijet, and send it into space. And Lincoln realizes that Daisy is planning to fly the Quinnijet itself, and of course she knows that someone's going to die, so Daisy's basically planning on committing suicide is what she's planning on doing. I mean, she knows the suicide mission, but she doesn't care. She feels that she needs to be destroyed, and it really is this crazy moment, but the fact that Daisy goes to these lengths, I mean, you can understand, I mean, what happened to her, how she was affected. I really was thinking, they're gonna kill Daisy. I was freaking out, and I was really thinking, alright, this would make sense if they killed Daisy. And by the time Coulson's done explaining the plan, Daisy's already on her way. Primitives attack the group. Hive arrives as well, but then disappears to chase Daisy. Daisy is latching the warhead into the Quinnijet. Hive finds her. Hive tries to talk her down. And I love that Hive didn't actually want her to do this. Like, he says, no, you're better than this. But she's not under his sway, though, and Hive says that he'll just use Ward's knowledge to override the controls, but Lincoln is in the pilot seat. He says he's fried the controls, zaps Daisy, knocks her out of the Quinnijet, and Lincoln's going to clearly take this for her, and there really is no changing this, that Lincoln is going to die, and he takes off with Hive on board. Daisy radios to Lincoln, says this was supposed to be her destiny, but she realizes that the cross is gone, that Lincoln has the cross, and I'm like, okay, now I know what's going to happen. Now, yes, I predicted that Lincoln would die. I really would. I said, alright, it's gonna be Lincoln or Mac. I knew it was gonna be one of those two characters. And you guys know I haven't loved Lincoln, but what they did with him in this episode, I think worked incredibly well. And because of the emotion and really just how much these two sold it. Again, I don't know the actor's name. I can't think of the actor's name that played Lincoln, but Chloe Bennett really sold it here. The actor that played Lincoln I thought was great too. The radio finally gives out as the Quinnijet begins flowing through space. And Hive, we see, is actually ready to face his death. Like, he's just gonna accept that, okay, I'm gonna die, and I need to accept that. I know I'm powerful, but I'm gonna die, and I'm gonna go out in the best way possible. Daisy tries to convince Coulson to bring the Quinnijet back, but there's nothing to be done. They just can't do that, and it really is a sad scene, and yes, it was slow-mo and it was very long, but it made sense because this was a very much anticipated scene. Hive and Lincoln then enjoy the view together as they wait for the end. Hive says he only wanted to make it better to feel a connection. Hive realizes that Lincoln must feel that connection already to be so willing to sacrifice himself. Lincoln says that they're only human and he lets the cross float away, and I really think that Lincoln did this because, again, he really feels that there's nothing that he's giving Daisy, and there's nothing that they're gonna miss that he doesn't have. And yes, it's sad, but again, Lincoln was trying to find his place, and he wanted to be a hero, and this is how he does it. He saves the girl, he makes her life better, he makes things, less complicated for her, and the moment in Daisy's vision finally takes place, the Quinnijet explodes, Lincoln is dead, as well as Hive, and that's who died. And like I said, yes, it's predictable that Lincoln died, but I think it was as well executed as they could have done it. I think this whole scene was really well done. I think they both really sold it, and really emotional stuff. I honestly did get a bit teary-eyed, I'm not gonna lie. But then we get to the ending, which this I loved, I have to say, because Jemma then asks, of course, the question of, what now? Because now that things have, now they destroyed the Quinnijet, now that they've taken on Hive, now that Daisy is still very much affected by what's going on, how do they really move on? And I really think it was fitting to do this 6-month time jump. Now, at first it was like, really? You had to do that? But it makes sense, because if we didn't do the 6-month time jump, we would have tons of scenes of Daisy grieving over Lincoln. It would get very annoying, and this way we can focus on that drama, but not overtly focus on it, and especially because what happens this time to him, where this is going, I love. I think this is very different. And again, like I said, they promised that this would be a new direction for the show. And you definitely see that in this scene, which already feels like a completely revamped show. We see newspapers have discovered that Daisy was the cause of an earthquake and wonder if she's a hero or a rebel. We see that she's robbing banks, and they're not even referring to her as Daisy, they're referring to her as Quake now, and they're really wondering if she's a hero or a rebel, which I thought was a very good setup. And it's kind of like Captain America Civil War in the sense that, they're trying to think if, were the Avengers justified in what they did, how they affected all these people. Coulson watches from a window as we see, he watched from the window and we see the woman who is the wife of Charlie. We see she's the wife of Charlie and, of course, her daughter Robin. They are back. Daisy is finally fulfilling that promise that she made to Charlie. If you remember when Charlie died, he said to her straight out, I want you to look over my family. And he thanks Daisy for helping her. And Daisy shows the girl Robin, the Robin their father carved before he died. And honestly, I was getting a bit teary-eyed here. And she sees the Robin. And Daisy is all goth now. She has like dark hair. And Coulson then realizes that it's Daisy. And we very quickly realize that Daisy is no longer in S.H.I.E.L.D. She clearly has left S.H.I.E.L.D. because one, I don't think she thinks she's, really deserves to be there and that she really should be there because of what she's done. I don't think she can be trusted. Two, she clearly is now a rogue agent and she tells his team to move. He tells his team to move in. Daisy says he wants to introduce him to a friend, and we don't know, obviously we know she's talking about Coulson, and it's clear that they are going after Daisy. That is who Coulson and Mack were going after. So she then takes off as S.H.I.E.L.D. moves in. Coulson and Mack chase after Daisy. She moves to an alleyway, and it's just this awesome scene because again, it's sad to see them go after Daisy, but it's really, like I said, it's a new direction the show's never taken before. Daisy used her powers to jump a rooftop, and then we get the most compelling piece of dialogue when Coulson tells Mack, we need to call the director. And then we get this moment where we realize that Coulson is no longer the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Who's the director? Is it May? Is it someone we don't know? I feel like that's the case, that it's someone we don't know. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, May definitely is the director. But why would May demote Coulson? I do not know why May would do that. I mean, why would that happen? Did Coulson tell her to do that? I could not see that happening. So I do not think that May's the director. In fact, I think May went out somewhere else because it really seems like everyone's divided now. She basically said to let them know they failed. They'll have to wait and see where they're reassigned, and this is just incredible. I love the way this was done. And then we get to the other part of this episode where we see Radcliffe is celebrating after his last day of hearings. He hoped that Fitz would be there, but he's preparing a surprise for Jemma. It's clear that these two are working here, and again, I don't think they are with S.H.I.E.L.D. right now. I think Jemma and Fitz have gone on that vacation and they've left, and he begins uploading the LMD Phase 1. He says he's celebrating the birth of Ada, which is an AI, and clearly we can tell that something about Radcliffe just seems off. Like, I don't know why, but I just don't trust this guy. Just the way he's talking, what he's saying in this episode, I don't trust him. But that is how this season ends, and I cannot wait for next season. I mean, the way that was done really has opened a new chapter for the show. The fact that Coulson's no longer the director, that has me really intrigued. The fact that Daisy is now rogue, she's gone rogue, she's no longer working with S.H.I.E.L.D. She's clearly a target now. She could possibly be the villain next season. I don't think Daisy's gonna be the villain. I think she's gonna be more of an anti-hero, where now she's gonna make some bad decisions, which she is doing it for good reason. She's clearly doing it to help, Charlie's wife and, her wife and his daughter as well. That's clearly why she's doing it, which I do like seeing. But she's now working with S.H.I.E.L.D. Who is the director? That's something that I want to know, is who's the director. It seems like everyone's split up, so where's May gone? Because I don't think that May is working with them anymore. It's clear that Jemma and Fitz aren't working with them anymore. So it's just Coulson and Mack, and I get that because Mack's her best friend, and Coulson, of course, was the one that recruited Daisy. Daisy did bring up, though, in this episode that May was the one, the recruiter, which, yeah, I mean, that's how the show started, was Daisy was, I believe, if I remember, a hacker, and May recruited her. But Daisy's actually back to the point where she started, because if you remember, Daisy was a rebel. She was a rebel. She was doing, when she was Skye, of course, she was a rebel. She was doing some things that really were kind of irrevocable when you really think of it, but this is even worse now, because now she's Quake, and we know why she's doing this, though, because she does not feel she deserves to be in S.H.I.E.L.D. This is not something that she necessarily chose. I think she just knew that she cannot be in S.H.I.E.L.D. after what happened. She's clearly still affected by Lincoln's death. I'm sure we're going to hear him, and I'm sure the Daisy that we've had for 3 seasons is not the same Daisy we're going to see in season 4. What's going on with Radcliffe? Something about his AI I just don't trust. I don't know what it is. I don't trust him. We'll have to see what that is, but I just don't trust him. Something about him I don't trust here. But I love the way this was done because it perfectly sets us into a new direction. It changes aspects of the show, it gives us new character dynamics, and really shows that the show is not getting stale anytime soon. And I love that because they did say they're going to 10 o'clock to be a lot more grittier. They want, not just grittier, but they want to be a little bit more mature. They want to focus more on darker storylines. It definitely seems like the storyline of next season really is, are these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents really heroes? Are they really doing good things? How can they overcome what happened? Because it seems like they haven't overcome. Now, I really don't want flashbacks. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. I don't want flashbacks next season. I think it's going to be unnecessary if we do that. I don't know if the show is going to do that, but I really don't want flashbacks next season. I think it'd be really dumb if we did that, and I really think the show should just quickly tell us where everyone is, do basically what Penny Dreadful's done, catch us up, basically divide everyone, divide everyone, give them all interesting storylines, show us where everyone's been, get us caught up on everything we need to get caught up on, and then boom, we can move on with the new storyline, which I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to be. When all is said and done, guys, this was by far the best season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, it was extremely compelling. It was extremely gripping. It never really got stale, I think. I mean, I was very worried after they killed Ward and then they brought him back as High, but it's probably one of the best decisions they made because now Brett Dalton's done. We know that Brett Dalton's done now. Brett Dalton killed it in this episode. In this season in general, he has been definitely one of the highlights. The two highlights of the season, without a doubt, Brett Dalton and Chloe Bennett, they've been the two highlights of this season. They've just killed every scene that they are in. They are slaying it, and again, it does show us that this really is about Daisy. Like, the show, I think, has always been about Daisy. She's what started out. Even though Coulson is technically our main character, Daisy, I think, is our true main character. It's very, very much showed that here. Let me know if you guys saw this episode. What did you think of Lincoln's death? I think it was very well done, the way it was all done. Like I said, Lincoln was a character that just wasn't really working, and I think they showed that really well here, that he wasn't, it was kind of intentional, which, again, I don't really buy. I kind of feel like they just put that in because, oh, he's not working, we need to give him a reason why he's not working. There's that as well. I thought Hive's death was very well done. I thought everything they did was really well done. Probably the best finale Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D's ever done, without a doubt. I thought it was much better than last year's finale. Last year's finale was great, but the stakes just weren't nearly as high as they were in this episode. There wasn't really that fear that someone was going to die. I mean, there kind of was, but I didn't really think someone was going to die last week in last year's finale. I knew someone was going to die in this finale. But overall, guys, if you guys saw this episode, up to your thoughts on it. What do you think of this finale overall? I cannot wait for next season. I am so hyped for it. Overall, guys, love the season, and definitely the best season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. without a doubt. Let me know if you guys saw the season. I will see you guys in my next year, which will be for either The Path, because I am going to try to watch The Path. I know I might not get to it, I don't know, or Arrow, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye. One last quick thing, guys, before I end the video that I just kind of want to talk about. You know, this whole fallen agent arc that we've been having? I don't really think the fallen agent has to do with Lincoln. I don't think that he really is the fallen agent here. The fallen agent, without a doubt, is relating to Daisy, and how Daisy doesn't feel like an agent. She now feels like a fallen agent because she's no longer part of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's now left S.H.I.E.L.D. It has impacted her in a huge way, and she doesn't feel like she'll ever be a part of it anymore. And she, of course, is no longer an agent, and that really is what I think the whole fallen agent part was all about. There's a reason why Daisy, I think, is on the, she's in the center of that, of the thumbnail where it says fallen agent, because she really is the one that it's pertained to. It's all about Daisy, it's not, I think that arc was all about Daisy, and I think the rest of the season is going to be, can Daisy, be an agent again, or is she always going to feel like that fallen agent? And I think that really is what this pertains to. Sorry, guys, I just wanted to talk about that because I think it was really interesting. But again, let me know if you guys saw this episode, to your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which would be for either, like I say, either The Path or Arrow, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.